One of the most common questions we get is what to expect when you're called down to law enforcement. First and foremost, we always tell folks to prepare. So the first way that you prepare to go down to law enforcement is that when you are a suspect of a crime, only go there with your military ID card. Take with you also a Post-it note or some kind of a note card where you write down the name and phone number for the escort that's taking you there. Because military law enforcement also will not release you until they release you to your command, it's a good idea to go ahead and write down your O3 level commander's name and contact information, as well as an O5 level commander and their contact information. It varies based off of branch of service to whom they are going to be required to release you. After you get there, expect to sit in the lobby for some amount of time after you've checked in and let them know that you're there. They'll come out, you're going to go through a pat down where they're going to be looking for any weapons. They'll usually direct you to some type of locker where they're going to indicate that you should put your personal effects. Because you've prepared and you've gone down there and you don't have personal effects with you, you won't need the locker. After you are patted down for any weapons or anything else for safety protocols, you'll be taken back to an interrogation room. That interrogation room is wired for sound and video. After you sit down, they may leave the room, they may come back, they may just start with you immediately. Expect to fill out some type of biographical sheet with them where they'll be indicating to you what the questions are, including height, weight, eye color, DOD ID number, birthplace, whether or not you have any identifying scars or tattoos, etc. This is also when they will take the opportunity to try to build rapport with you. Building rapport is so that you tend to have your guard down so that you'll be feeling like maybe this person is really, could be co-opted to being on your side. They are not a threat to you. Make no mistake, rapport building is something that they learn in interrogation techniques, and it's meant to encourage you to waive your rights. Don't. After they go through this sort of rapport building, and even during that event, they may even be telling you in response to personal information you're giving them, oh, yeah, that's your hometown? Oh, my cousin's from there. Or, oh, I love the, Buffalo Bills, whatever. They can lie to you during this phase as well. The next phase is going to be that they're going to read you your rights. When they read you your rights under Article 31B, the way that they'll do it is that they'll require you to verify your information at the top. They may even have you initial next to your name, your identifying information, etc. Then they're going to ask you to read aloud each one of the rights that you have and verbally indicate to them that you do understand each of those rights. They may even have you initial next to each right as you're acknowledging it. Then they will try, during that second part of the form, to try to have you read aloud the section that says that you are waiving your rights. Do not fall for it. Indicate that you are not waiving your rights. Now, this is very important because you have two different rights that you can assert at this point under Article 31 Bravo. The first one is the right to not be questioned or say anything at all. That is the right to remain silent. You're going to invoke that right, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Secondarily, you also have the ability to invoke your right to counsel. That is your right to go and seek counsel about the events. In response to invoking your right to counsel, it may very well be that the law enforcement officer tells you, well, we can start the interrogation, we can start the interview, and at any point you can ask for a lawyer. Don't fall for that. In fact, they're not supposed to do that. Because once you've already invoked your right to silence, they're not supposed to try to get you to agree to anything or to try to keep persuading you to talk. The reason that you are invoking both rights is this. If you only invoke your right to counsel, that gives law enforcement the opportunity to re-engage with you, to reapproach you, and to try to talk to you again, because they are only required under Supreme Court case law to give you the opportunity in a reasonable amount of time to go and find an attorney. That doesn't mean that you are saying, because you may not go get an attorney. That's why it's important to invoke your right to silence. Invoking your right to silence puts a force field around you. That means that they cannot reapproach you. It's like you have this guard up forever and always that they cannot come back to you again. Realize that after you invoke your rights, they're not going to be happy. They're going to have you sit and stew in that room for quite some time. They're going to play games with your mind by keeping you trapped in that room because they're hoping that you will reinitiate, right? Because just because you've invoked your rights doesn't mean that you can't later undo them. If you approach law enforcement because they're making you sit and stew for hours and you're wondering what the investigation's about, you're hoping maybe you can get some information, maybe you're even convincing yourself of that. Don't be tricked. Don't be fooled into doing that. Sit there, meditate, think about the weather, think about your favorite sports team. Just sit there and be quiet, because if you reapproach them, then that may be considered that you've now uninvoked your rights, right? That you've waived your rights. Don't fall for it. If they try to tell you after, 2-3 hours, they haven't been able to get in touch with command, and even on that way out the door, it might be smart to say, hey, look, if you need to get in touch with my chain of command, I have their information right here. If you need to get in touch with my escort, here is his or her phone number. And I always tell folks that even before you go in to that room, before you go back to get patted down, tell your escort not to go very far, because it shouldn't be too long. The other thing that they will often do is to process you for all of the photographs, DNA, and fingerprints. This is different from a probable cause search that we have and we can discuss on some of my other content. The DNA buccal swab is a part of normal booking procedures, and you do not have the right to decline this, okay? They will take that from the inside of your mouth and they'll collect it for purposes of the probable cause determination of your arrest. It can go into the repository for all of other DNA, and it can be used to compare, statistically speaking, as to whether or not people of your race and gender are statistically consistent with other forms of DNA when they come up with a match. But this is not for evidentiary purposes, and you do not have the right to say no. You also do not have the right to say no to booking procedures, including documenting and photographing any noticeable tattoos or scars on your body, and the front, side, and profiles of your face. They'll also take fingerprints. This, again, is not something that you have the right to decline. This is a part of normal booking procedures. It can become uncomfortable and feel sort of socially awkward as you're standing there waiting for this person to facilitate all of these processes. Any conversations, any statements that you make during this process are going to be documented and can be used against you. This is significant because you really should just be quiet all the way around, because this area is typically not under surveillance for video and audio. And then later, if the agent writes in his report that you spontaneously made a given statement, it's going to be your word against theirs. So just be awkwardly silent. Know your rights, invoke them, and get to counsel that can help you.